So good evening. I'm Nora Fountain. I am the Executive Director of the Muskoka Lakes Chamber of Commerce. It is my great pleasure to welcome you here this evening, and thank you for taking this time. In the spirit of respect, collaboration, and truth, I'd like to begin tonight's event by acknowledging that we are meeting on land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people from time immemorial. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, to live, and work on this land together. I'd like to recognize all the candidates who aren't on stage with us now. When I call your name, will you please stand up and give a wave? Probably to the people behind you. How does that sound? So starting with Ward A, Ruth Ellen Nishikawa must be sending her regrets tonight. She couldn't make it here this evening. She is acclaimed as district councillor. Many of you have asked, what does acclaimed mean? It means that no one ran against them. So they are not yet councillors. They will be sworn in probably in December, but they have been acclaimed and will take a seat at council. Our candidates for council for Ward A, and Ward A is Walker's Point, Bala, Torrance, Moon River. It gets really interesting around Moon River and Cranberry Road. Some of it turns into Ward C. But our candidates for Ward A are Cassandra Ford. Where are you, Cassandra? Thank you, Cassandra. Mary Ellen McIntyre. No, we can clap. It's good. I can talk over clapping. Here we go. David Skorick. Where are you, David? And Glenn Zavitz. In Ward B, your acclaimed district councillor-elect is Alan Edwards. Your candidates for council include Jamie Davey, Susan Mazen, and Gordon Roberts. For Ward C, acclaimed for the first time as district councillor-elect is Guy Burry. Your candidates for councillor in Ward C include Rob Bosworth, Matt Fairbrass, Sally Moyer-Kent, Jason Sift, and Sean Stokes. Okay. Sandra Morris and Dan Simmons, they will appear on your ballots, but they have withdrawn from the Ward C race. Now, how is tonight's panel going to work? We've set it up as a fireside chat type. Mayoral candidates are answering questions submitted in advance by the public, and we asked for a focus on business-related issues because the Chamber is the business voice of the region. So tonight, you'll hear what the candidates' priorities are for those challenges, and we're taping tonight so others can watch later on YouTube. Our Chamber member, South Muskoka Doppler, has lent us their editor, Matt Driscoll, as our moderator. A journalist for 2 decades, Matt's worked for publications such as the Bracebridge Examiner, Muskoka Magazine, Unique Muskoka, and Points Further in Northern Ontario. Please engage with us on social media if you like. You can join the discussion on Twitter at Muskoka Lakes CC, at Doppler South, and use the hashtag Muskoka Lakes Decides. Now, please know that we know that some questions asked tonight may be about the issues the township is already handling. The Chamber may already know the answers, in fact. And some questions refer to sectors the Chamber has members in. And some of our members might not like the tone of some of those questions. Others question the powers at play in our region. The Chamber sees tonight as a learning experience for all. So even though some questions, they might sting a bit, please don't shoot the messenger. You ask these questions, and we hope to get to all of them. Guidelines for tonight. Not a lot of rules, but questions have been pre-assigned in rotating order, and a coin flip by a TVO producer who doesn't know the candidates decided the starting order. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to answer. We'll give you a 30-second warning with Hadley, our timekeeper. She's got the yellow sheet up there. She's going to have that up at 30 seconds, and she will call time loudly at 2 minutes. And our apologies if you get cut off mid-sentence. There will be no opportunity for rebuttal. You will get to see the answers to all the questions for all the candidates here tonight when they are submitted in writing and shared back to the public via the media and our website. Our moderator might prompt for more details or might even ask a follow-up question. We encourage candidates to be candid and answer with conviction. but speaking over each other or combative behavior, of course, would not be tolerated, and that goes for the audience as well. Please, no heckling. You'll be warned, and if it continues, you'll be asked to leave. We'll have opening remarks of 3 minutes each. As Phil Harding will get the first question, Peter Kelly will speak to you first with his opening remarks. Take it away, Peter. Peter first, Phil second.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. I hope you can hear me better than I can hear me. But I want to just do a couple of things a little bit different than planned. The most often asked question I got in the back corner is, who are you? So I think probably 3 minutes is best spent if I talk a little bit about who I am and why I'm running. My name is Peter Kelly. I am presently serving as the Township Councillor for Ward C. I'm a full-time resident in Port Carling, and I also have a cottage up near Manette. In the past, I've been a lawyer. I was the president of one of GE Commercial Finance's businesses in Canada, and I've been an entrepreneur. 23 years I've been cottaging, 7 years we've been living here year-round, and my wife and I have a 15-year-old daughter who goes to school in Bracebridge. I really want to talk a little bit about why I'm running, and the primary reason I'm running is because I absolutely love this place, the entire region, particularly this township. In the past, I have, as I said, been a lawyer. When I came here, I came to a community that I barely knew as a full-time resident, and I felt embraced. So I have, in the 7 years I've been here, taken several opportunities to give back to the community. And right now, on a volunteer basis, I'm the president of the Lions Club in Port Carling. I chair the board of directors of the Friends of Muskoka Watershed, who you might know for its Ash Drive. I sit on the Habitat for Humanity fundraising and build committees, and until I took a leave of absence a couple of months ago, I was a member of the board of directors of this chamber. So I have a history of service, a history of giving back to the community that I care for so much. Part of the issue for me that is a real benefit to that sort of work is it gives me direct access to the people who live here. I am part of the community, I work with parts of the community, and I understand their needs. What I've also understood through the course of the last 4 years on council is that their needs aren't being met. Nor do I think the needs of other residents, the cottage residents, are being met, nor are the business residents' needs being met. We have a lot of issues in front of us. We have a lot of plans to tackle those issues, but we need really strong leadership to make tough decisions, sometimes unpopular decisions, to tackle them, wrestle them to the ground, and move on and solve other problems. I'm not a politician. That's good news or it's bad news. I don't know. It depends on your perspective. You'll always know where I stand because I frankly have nothing to lose by telling you exactly what I think. And if you would please go to the website, peterkelly.ca, there's a whole plan there, a plan of attack to tackle the 4 issues: the environment, bylaw enforcement.
Thank you, Candidate Kelly. Candidate Hardy? The mic is yours.
Whose phone is this?
Well, that's mine.
That's yours. Okay, we'll do
I've
it.
got special notes for you.
Okay. Okay, let's see if I can see her. First of all, thank you all very much for coming tonight and taking some time. As some background, I'm fortunate to have been in Muskoka now for over 50 years. Not only do I call Muskoka home, but my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandson, who as a matter of fact goes to nursery school here, they have chosen to live and work here in Port Carling as well. Back in 2010, when I was first elected to council, I noticed that council at the time made a lot of decisions that were based on emotions, knee-jerk reactions to issues versus strategic thinking and solving long-term problems. In 2010, the problem of the day was Save Valley Falls. I'm sure we all remember that. But then there was a pendulum swing. We had a promise to get on with business. This past term, there was a conscious choice not to be too far left, not to be too far right, but to be balanced, with a promise to listen to all sides, making well thought out and informed, balanced decisions. As we move forward in 2023 and beyond, I want to continue with this balance. I want to continue with what we've started, and I want to build on the successes that we've had over the past 4 years. This council has made monumental strides, including updating our strategic plan with environmental first principle. We have tripled our bylaw enforcement, updated our tree preservation bylaw, implemented remediation orders when people break our bylaws. We've worked with the province to reduce flooding. And we've also embedded increased environmental protection measures within our new official plan. We've reduced the development in Minette to 1/2. We've increased transparency with webcasting. We've controlled spending. We've built reserves. We've also implemented a new strategic plan. We've got a new official plan, a new recreational master plan, a new fire master plan, and a new asset master plan. Not to mention, we've done all of this under the first ever state of emergency and with a 2-year pandemic, forcing council to meet virtually. For the coming term, we need to put affordable housing front and center, or housing in general for that matter, with a focus on finding accommodations for seasonal staff. We need to continue supporting the Chamber as they support each and every one of you. Last term, we entered and developed a new Economic Development Committee. To be honest, I'm not sure we achieved as much as I would have liked to have achieved. But we can do more going forward. We need to continue to build business year-round. We need to find unique ways to encourage people to stay open year-round and to stay open later, not to just take in the summertime. Of course, the environment is obviously part of our protection, and we need to be front and center in everything we do. As Muskoka Watershed Council have been environmental experts for 20 years, we don't need to create a new plan, we need to follow their plan. As we go through tonight, remember, anybody can tell you what you want to hear, but proven leaders will tell you what you need to hear. Thank you. Look forward to discussing.
Thank you both for your opening remarks. Another big round of applause for them stepping up for public service. And now, Matt, from me, over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Nora. I'm pleased to be the moderator for tonight. I know Nora's already shared the ground rules for this evening, so without further ado, let's get started. We'll try and keep this as tight as possible. Through recent polling, our citizens told us their top areas of concern, and questions have been grouped into 4 categories, which we posted around the room. Hopefully you guys saw those. We're going to start with housing and talent. Some of these questions may be a bit repetitive, but we wanted to get them all in as this is an overriding issue in the township. We're going to start with a question for Phil. Ontario wants to build 1.5 million new homes within 10 years, and Muskoka is already short 4,400 homes, and it will only be worse 10 years from now. What would you do to help close the gap?
Thank you. I think the most important thing that council needs to do is sometimes say yes. Nobody wants to build 400 new homes beside them, but we need new homes. There's a development I chatted with someone tonight in Port Carling that are worried about having too many homes. The reality is these homes that are going in on sewer and water are going to be built over the next 100 years, probably not in our lifetime. We have additional capacity already on the eastern side of Port Carling with Hannah's Landing, 285 homes. We need someone to build them. We need to find developers to come to Port Carling, to come to Bala, to find lots, to start building some homes, to find rental accommodations, and we need to find seasonal accommodation. Full stop. We need housing.
Thanks, Phil. Peter, we have a similar question for you. The lack of housing and accommodation is a key issue affecting staff and tourists. How would you address this issue over the next 3 to 5 years?
Thank you. I would look at a couple of things. First of all, if we can get approval to reduce the size of square footage of dwellings and accommodate something like tiny homes, it wouldn't be my first choice, but it may be something that would have an appeal to seasonal staff, which I think is what your question's about. I would look at trying to find a way to build something like a dorm-style place. And I don't think the township should be the one building it, but we've got to do whatever we have to do to make it easier for those to get approved and get built. Keep the price under control. I think it's in everybody's interest to do something like that and accommodate staff in a separate location, because right now there's a lot of houses that would otherwise be available to permanent year-round family members being tied up and used seasonally by staff for local business.
Thank you. Okay, Phil, next question for you. Do you have a vision of how this council could be led to attend to the issue of staff and housing availability as equally as it pays attention to waterfront properties?
Absolutely, and I'll come back to the other question to Mr. Kelly. Talk about smaller homes. It's actually in our new official plan that we are allowing smaller homes to be built. So check that box, we're going to be able to build some more housing. We talk about the development at Cleveland's House, and we have encouraged, we have strongly recommended, and we have told the developer of Cleveland's House that they must include staff housing as part of their new development. So it's in the works, it's going forward, and it is a commitment to this current council, and it will be a commitment to the next current council to make sure that we have staff housing.
Okay, Peter, next one for you. Once elected, will you encourage affordable housing in both urban and rural areas, or will you feel obligated to respond to the MLA and the Friends of Muskoka in your decision-making regarding development?
I'm glad we don't have any loaded questions. The simple fact of the matter is that, of course, I will encourage attainable housing anywhere we can put it. When you talk about attainable housing in rural areas, we'd have to work with the province to get freed up so that we can build multiple units on lots, which we can't do now. And I absolutely agree that we need attainable housing. It's going to be the core of a revitalization of a permanent year-round family unit that is part of the, frankly, the essence of and the backbone of our community 12 months of the year. So I think attainable housing in the urban centers serviced for sure, and rural areas as well, absolutely.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, Phil, what would you do to help council and staff bring talent and skilled workers into Muskoka Lakes?
Well, I think number one, we need to increase our partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. One of the things that the Chamber did an amazing job of is the movie that took place this summer in Bala and Port Carling and all around. The entire film was shot here. We need to find a greater opportunity to connect outside of our areas to promote business moving into Port Carling. We need more talent. We need homes to do that, but we need to be open for business and not a closed, gated community.
All right, for you, Peter, one on the official plan. Does the official plan include a directive to develop municipal incentives to build off-water attainable housing in Muskoka Lakes? If it doesn't, why not?
The official plan isn't the official plan until it's passed, and so I'm assuming we're talking about the iteration that we're going to review again on Monday. We're going to get public feedback on that. It does include a direction for attainable housing, but it hasn't been approved and passed by council yet.
Okay, we're going to move on from that section, and we're going to look at doing business in Muskoka Lakes, covering conditions for business and sector-specific questions as well. Next question is for you, Phil. How are you planning to help small business through the looming recession, and how are you planning to stay accountable on those promises?
Well, I'm fortunate that over 12 years, I've never promised anything that I can't deliver on. So if I don't jump out and say, we're going to bring 100 new businesses in here, understand that I can't promise that. What I would like to do, and as a unique idea, to keep businesses open year-round, because we hate it when Labor Day or Thanksgiving comes and the red carpet rolls up and they all go away and they don't come back and they take from the company, from Muskoka through the summertime. What we need to do is find incentives, probably municipal tax incentives for those people who want to be open in Muskoka 365 days a year. It's a small, interesting opportunity, but if we can find a way to incentivize them for those who stay open year-round, I think we're going to be a long way in keeping businesses and people open year-round.
Okay, Peter, let's take a quick look at the green economy. The questioner says, I understand there's a move to a green economy in Muskoka Lakes. What are the businesses that may be involved in a green economy here? And will the revenues from those businesses replace a potential move away from development and real estate?
Thank you. If I understood the question, what industries could adopt a green approach? I mean, the development industry might well be the first one to lead the charge in terms of green building and green building causes. I think the tourism business could benefit from something like ecotourism. You could sort of streamline and focus our tourist offering to attract people based on whether it's ecotourism or hiking, whatever it's done, cycling. I don't see anything that can't be benefited by taking on a green approach to an old business, just upgrading the technology and doing things in a way that's much more conscious of the impact on the environment than maybe we've had in the past.
Okay, let's move on to transportation. Phil, when can we start to lobby ride-share services like Uber to operate here? The questioner noted these are major drivers of local travel and hospitality.
Tomorrow, more than happy to broach that topic, to start contacting them again from an economic development perspective. I think it totally is appropriate. Innisfil, as opposed to putting in their own transit system, they bought an Uber share and subsidized the Uber share to drive people around. That's the creative thinking we need to do from an economic perspective to make this a year-round economy and to have people live in one area, one sector, and be able to get to work in the other sector.
Okay, one for you, Peter. The questioner is asking, presently the lower floor of a boathouse can only be used for boats and related items. Do you support residential use such as bedrooms, recreational facilities, etc. in this space? Please be specific about the use you support and why you support it.
The use I support is on the ground floor of a boathouse. The majority of the space has got to be dedicated, in my opinion, to boats and marine storage. The rest of it, the minority piece, as some form of a lounge, an escape from the sun, a sitting area adjacent to the dock, but no bedrooms, no habitable space.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. What's the best way to enforce something like that, do you feel?
Well, I've got a plan for enforcement, and it's too long to go through in 2 minutes, but it's a huge challenge. Like all of the issues that our bylaw enforcement team face, I'm not sure we've equipped them with the right technology, the right attitude, and some leadership to go after taking control of the violations that happen. Ground floor in the boating area in a boathouse is just one of many examples where I don't have an immediate answer. We're going to upgrade our equipment and our aggression towards going and finding these issues and stopping them.
Okay, Phil, if the lakes continue to have the blue-green algal blooms that we've seen, livelihoods here could be affected. Do you have a plan for the monitoring of old septic beds?
Thank you. Actually, we just implemented, so 4 years ago I did run on a platform that said we're going to do mandatory septic inspections. That program is now in place. So we have identified high-risk systems, medium and low-risk systems, and we are addressing the high-risk systems today to ensure that they come into compliance. This is a priority of this term of council, and it will continue on going forward. Blue-green algal blooms. Dr. Peter Sale of Watershed Council has commented. I was at a lake meeting for 3 Mile Lake recently, and commented that over the past 40 years, anecdotally, we don't see more or less. We see more social media, so we know and we hear about these many times. But there's certainly a problem we need to address where we can, but we don't know how to solve them yet. We need more data. Watershed Council is continually working to get more data, to understand more, to be able to control algal blooms, and I would so support that, and I would support funding through the district, which we're already doing, to increase data on that.
Excellent. Okay, next question is for Peter. This is not my question, remember that? How will you encourage new business when there are staff shortages and most of the businesses in town are presently real estate offices?
Let me tell you what I know about green algal blooms. Contrary to what we just heard, blue green algal blooms have very little to do with septic systems, and we do have a great plan for a septic inspection system, but to my knowledge, we've yet to inspect one. The other issue that we've got to address, blue green algal blooms are actually, Dr. Peter Silney had said that anecdotally, but scientifically, and based on data, there are more of them. They're occurring in new and different places, and they're much bigger and more difficult to kill than they originally were. We do know that there's a cure. The problem is figuring out how to predict them so we can get at them before we lose control. That's the plan that I'm talking about, and it's a lot more than just water management. There's 5 or 6 other ecosystems that feed into it.
Yeah, that was dangerously close to a rebuttal, but I'm going to re-ask the same question I asked before. How will you encourage new businesses when there are staff shortages? And most of the businesses are occupied by real estate offices.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the business occupation by real estate offices is a problem. I mean, there's room for more business. We'll find it. We'll make it in the cores of Pallet or Carling, where they don't have to be relocated, centrally like that. And definitely, labor shortage is a huge issue. The labor shortage that we have is not unique to Muskoka. It's not even unique to Ontario. It's across Canada and in the United States. It has to do with building accessible housing, whether it's temporary staff housing or whether it's permanent year-round housing. It has to do with building housing. It has to do with making sure we incent the kinds of business that are friendly to an environmentally sensitive area like Muskoka to come and work with us. Sorry, set the card up.
Let's not stop you.
Oh, no, let's keep talking? Okay, I'll keep talking. We're going to attract more business. We've got to find a way to solve the labor problem, but I can tell you we're not going to solve it alone. It's frankly an international problem, certainly Canada and the United States.
Okay, so let's move on to short-term rentals for a second. So Phil, in this question, the person is suggests that the lack of affordable housing is tied to short-term rentals. They're asking, what actions would you support the township take to address the situation? And do you support a minimum 30-day stay for short-term rentals?
So I'm not sure that affordable housing is tied to short-term rentals. Short-term rentals is truly an issue. That we've had a number of people invest and buy properties in Muskoka to capitalize. The short-term 3-day, 5-day, 7-day rental are problematic. People come in to party. The house, the cottage is full with as many people as they can be there each and every night, and they may change over. We need to address that, so much so that our council has talked about it already, and we have in place, we've committed to over the next 6 months and before summer of 2023 to have a short-term rental program. Embedded within the new official plan is ability to have a licensing bylaw so that we can license, theoretically, and I'll paint it as a high level, every property is licensed to have a short-term rental. We'll have a number of criteria that have to be met. When somebody breaks those rules, when we have too many complaints against a property, that license is pulled and that issue goes away. We can't just ban short-term rentals. Anybody who's doing it currently is grandfathered. They can still come and rent their cottage. There are a number of good renters. My neighbor goes away for 2 weeks a summer, and his tenants are always awesome. But that's the respect that he vets his tenants. So we need to find a way to do a better job of doing that and put in a framework that controls the rentals.
That's fair. I'm just going to follow up sort of in the same way with the boathouse one. So is that not sort of contingent on who lives near the short-term rental in terms of maybe someone likes to complain, maybe somebody doesn't? Doesn't that play a factor in who commits violations?
So I'm not sure that it's the violations. If you are a good neighbor, you're probably not going to offend anyone. And as I say, My neighbor doesn't have an issue with the people there. They respect the property, they respect the community. The traditional, and I'm gonna be bold, the traditional short-term rental have no respect for the neighborhood. They are coming to take from Muskoka and have the party of the week. That is what needs to stop. So when those bylaws go in place and those bylaws are broken, that's where we need to go. I want to talk to our bylaw officers, and if we can, here's a unique idea. If we can implement a system that bylaw officer comes out, the property is rented, the homeowner is no longer home, the bylaw fine doubles and it goes on the property tax. We need to attack this problem creatively as we move forward, and that's what the next 6 months is going to do.
Okay, Peter. A survey of Muskoka Lakes residents showed 70% of them supported allowing legal cannabis sales. Today, we're the only township in the entire riding that still doesn't allow this. And last year, all but one councillor voted against cannabis retail. Why are you stopping a legal business from setting up here? And today, would you vote to allow or disallow legal cannabis stores in Muskoka Lakes?
Thank you. I think probably, and I can't speak for council, I can only speak for me. It takes, it takes 10 of us to, or not 10, but 6 of us to agree. I think we were probably ultra cautious in terms of opening the door to cannabis sales, even though they were legal. I think we've had the benefit of at least 2 years, I can't remember how long it's been, at this point in time, 2 years, with nothing particularly interesting going on. And so I suspect if it came back for another look, all things being equal, I would probably support it.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next section, which is economic development and collaboration. The next question is for you, Phil. Please summarize your 5-year plan to accelerate economic growth throughout the region.
Well, in the next 30 days, I'd like to get re-elected, so that's the starting point of the next 5 years. For those who don't know, for 12 years I've used a platform, Muskoka 365, and that is the year-round economy. I mentioned earlier in my discussion that we need to find ways to incentivize business to stay open year-round. We need to stop and find ways to stop people taking from Muskoka. If you go to a Interwest, to Collingwood, to go to Mount Tremblant, go to Whistler, for example, before they sign a lease with the village, they agree to stay open 365 days a year. We need to be creative. I had a conversation with Nora last week that we do this great job of this on Thursday nights. We have some live music on Lock Street in Port Carmel. But no businesses are open. We need to mandate that those businesses are open so when people come, they have something to do. We can't operate autonomously. We have to work together to solve this problem.
Okay, Peter. The township collaborates with many organizations for the betterment of the community. The Chamber of Commerce is one of them. If elected, what's your vision for continued collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce?
Thank you very much. I just want to go back to the last answer, quite honestly. Using the word mandate and mandating people to stay open, for the life of me, can't understand how that works. There isn't enough money on earth to pay somebody to keep a store open if it's not making money. So what I would like to do in collaborating with the Chamber of Commerce is a couple of things. I think I have sat on the board for a couple of years. I think that there was a much better exchange of information between council and the chamber because the member of council was right there on the board. Conversely, Nora, the executive director, was an advisor to our economic development committee. I think that increased the flow of information. I think probably the next step, and contrary to trying to mandate people to stay open, we need to maybe put together a prospectus type thing that says, here are the opportunities to do business here. Here's what you can expect in terms of traffic or I don't think we know enough about running businesses to estimate some of that stuff, but we can put together the numbers and help somebody build a business case to justify opening or expanding or moving to the township of Muskoka Lakes. And through the chamber, is the right way to get that information in the hands of people who might come and start the business.
Okay. Let's expand it out a little bit. There's 6 municipalities, but none to call that represent Muskoka overall, sort of special to you folks. If a business wants to start up somewhere in Muskoka, who do they call, and what would you do to help solve this problem?
There's a Ghostbusters joke in here. I'm not going there. One of the things that I do know is the Chamber of Commerce works with all the chambers and collaboratively. And about 10 years ago, I worked hard to encourage that chamber working, to work with MTMA, Muskoka Tourism, and now RTO 12, Explorers Edge. We need to work all of our tourism, all of our marketing, everybody synergistically to do that. Is there a 1-800 phone number move here from a business? As a business owner, I started a business in 1995 here in Muskoka, grew that business. It ran in Muskoka, it ran down in Severn, it ran across central Ontario. We can have all the business perspectives in the world. We need support, and as a business owner, they need support from this council, they need support from this chamber to move forward. And as a district councillor, one of the things that I appreciate is my networking with my fellow district councillors to solve problems. I also serve on a Truth and Reconciliation Committee with my fellow mayors and also all of the chiefs of First Nations around. We get together every 3 months and we collaborate. We talk about what we can or we cannot do. And that is how business moves forward.
All right, Peter, as the head of the Economic Development Committee, what initiatives did you get completed?
Thank you. A few things that were foundational, creating a business inventory, creating a kind of an assessment of the strengths and weaknesses, a SWOT analysis of the opportunities to move or relocate or expand to the township of Muskoka Lakes. Community improvement programs for both Port Carling and Ballon, which were done, signed off, and for the most part I think they've been fully implemented. I think probably the single biggest contribution that we made probably was the ability to support rather fast-moving changes that local businesses had to make because of COVID, because of shutdowns and so forth. And I think we reacted quickly every time there was an opportunity to or a requirement to change the rules. We did everything we could along, I will point out, with Nora and the rest of the chamber staff. We worked very quickly to make sure we responded and did everything we could to keep business as normal in the township.
Okay, Phil, this next question reads, as a business member of the chamber, I'm frustrated by a lack of communication between council and the chamber. The councilor appointed to the chamber board recuses whenever chamber issues are brought to council. Can you suggest a better way to improve council and business relations going forward?
It's a collaboration. And if our councillor is not working, maybe there's 2 councillors that work for better communication. We have a new economic development person who has been charged at the township to work harder. We now have a new communications person at the township. We're learning. We're getting better in everything we do. Nothing is perfect. I said we put this committee together. We didn't do as much as I would have loved to do. But we're going to take from that, we're going to do a full debrief. We need all the committee members to do a full debrief and figure out where we're going to go for the next 4 years, because it needs to be a partnership. Those people have relationship counseling sometimes. We need maybe relationship counseling between ourselves and the chamber. And I put it out there that maybe I need to step in a little bit more. I chose to step out for the past 4 years, but maybe I need to step in a little bit more and help out.
Okay, these next 2 questions are from John Crowley of Bala. He wanted to be identified, so he's been identified. Okay, so this first one is for Peter. While the township has gone from 1 bylaw officer to 2.5 recently, there's still no one on duty from noon Friday and over the weekend when most noise, fireworks, and short-term rental issues occur. What will you do to ensure the complaints are effectively followed up and violators caught?
Thank you. Absolutely, and I must tell you, I don't know if it's 2 we need or 20, but we need to make sure that the behavior that is destructive to the enjoyment of this place and or to the environment stops. One of the things that I think needs to be considered is to hold those who are perpetually violating the bylaws accountable by licensing them. And I'm speaking specifically about things like short-term rentals, licensing the short-term rental operators so that when there's a violation, we have a much more aggressive stance. I think that the rental agents that operate in Muskoka and find people to put in beds need to be accountable for the cost to the local community of the misbehavior that happens. I think they need to run their own security patrols. I think they need to escort people to the town line when they're found to be in violation, not next Tuesday or Wednesday, but in the moment. And so part of the problem may be the numbers of violent enforcement. Part of the problem may be that we don't give them the right tools, we don't give them the right equipment to get out and do a more aggressive job of bylaw control. But I think the onus should fall on the ones who frankly make a profit from the activity that's causing us all the heartache.
Okay, I'm going to ask the other question from John Crawley. This one is for you, Phil. Our bylaws are the backbone of our municipality. While many new bylaws have been introduced and more are coming, what are you going to do as mayor to ensure that these bylaws are enforced?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is make sure the bylaws are right. And there's some bylaws that are difficult to enforce. I sat this week in a meeting with somebody who was complaining about a gazebo. And there was a definition of the gazebo and the type of materials that are used. And they believed it wasn't a gazebo, and our staff believe it is a gazebo. So we have to make sure the intent of our bylaws are accurate first and foremost. At that point, our bylaw staff can enforce them. And I beg to differ that our bylaw staff do have the tools. They have boats, they have cars, they are available on Friday afternoons and Friday evenings, they are available on the weekend. Anybody got a parking ticket on the weekend? It happens. So they are out there. We have an online 24-hour-a-day complaint process. We can't put 100 bylaw officers to stand on every street corner and catch somebody setting off fireworks. We've moved the needle already on this. The more education we have about our bylaws, the more education that our cottager associations and our ratepayer groups can do about our bylaws, the better off we are going to be to enforcing our bylaws. There's no perfect system. We are not a military state. I don't want part of a military state. I want to enjoy, have some fun in this place I call home.
I can't resist asking a follow-up on that. Do you feel like the OPP is doing an adequate job to address some of those complaints as they pertain to violations under criminal law?
In some areas, yes, but in some areas, no. And we need to use the public when there's speeding on certain roads and there's inappropriate driving behavior to contact the police, to contact council, and we can, because I have a relationship with the OPP that says we need more enforcement here, and they will direct accordingly when we raise the flag and say there's a problem. So again, it's that relationship factor to ensure that we get the appropriate support from the OPP.
I'll throw you the same one, Peter. You feel like there's enough collaboration right now between the township and the OPP?
Personally, I don't, but part of the problem obviously is limited resources with the OPP. We pay far more than our fair share for the OPP support. They, as we're finding out as we go around this township putting up signs, there's so much to cover. So I think we need to help them focus on where they need to, pay attention. What kinds of issues are likely to happen and when. Part of that will be input from neighbors and from people in the know, people who know where the issues take place and when they take place. Help them focus their resources so that they're more likely to stop the behavior that we need stopped. But if we just leave it to their devices and they have no connection to the place, there's hundreds of miles of road that they could be covering at any given moment.
Okay, we're down to our last few questions now. These ones relate to equal opportunity and seasonality. So Phil, we'll start with you. How are you going to improve the staff situation for summer businesses that rely on seasonal staff?
Well, I think the first thing I said is we need more staff accommodation. People aren't coming up here, and trust me, in my former businesses, it was a problem. Unless I could find staff accommodation, I couldn't get people to come from outside of Muskoka to work up here. We also have a bit of an entitled problem with some of the youth of today. They don't want to work. They'd rather sit on the dock and drive daddy's fancy boat and not worry about it. Oh, and next year I've got to go to school and I'm not going to be able to come back. We have to look at ourselves as parents or as grandparents and encourage our children and the people to get to work. I was at a business the other day, and their management say you have to be 16 years of age to work. They won't let them hire kids. There's a lot of 14-year-olds who will work and come out. So we maybe need to change some of those rules, and we need to talk to our businesses about letting younger people come in and show the older people how to work.
Hey, I've got a hot one for you here, Peter. One of our questioners suggested that the election campaign has been made ugly by the Friends of Muskoka and the MLA. If elected, how would you address what some see as an abuse of power by associations? And how can you ensure that all Muskoka Lakes residents are represented in future votes?
Okay, let me break that down a little bit. How can you make sure everybody is represented and take an oath to look out for the interests of all constituents, regardless of whether they're seasonal or permanent? And absolutely, I take that seriously. I think pretty much everybody on council does too. I really find it confusing how intimidated some people are by information, by knowledge, and maybe even by influence. But when the MLA or the FOM comes out with a list, when the MLA or FOM come out with suggestions, they're acting on behalf of a group of our constituents who don't have necessarily the time or the access to information to represent themselves. And they're highlighting issues that are clearly important to a large group of our constituents. It's up to each of us as councillors to do what we think is appropriate with that information. Ignore it, if you wish. You know, I have the benefit, frankly, of not being a politician. I don't care if I get reelected. I make decisions based on conscience, based on experience, and based on intellect. And I think everybody else does. But at the core of all of that is basic information. If somebody has access to information that would be useful to me to represent the interests of my constituents, I'm all for listening and looking and thinking about it, along with all the other contact that I have, whether it's volunteer work or otherwise. I have a lot of contact with the people who live here and spend time here. And are they not allowed to tell me what they think? I hope everybody is allowed to share the passion and the information they have and that I feel for this place. And whether it's funneled through one source or not, I can't understand why that's intimidating to some.
Okay, so we'd like to jump in on this one, and I think it's a pretty relevant topic here, so let's let Phil jump in for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. The one issue that I have noted over the past 4 years is associations' influence on council ahead of a topic, where councillors may come into the situation with preconceived notions based on phone calls that they received or emails they received before. We are mandated to go into those council meetings with an open mind. If I've been influenced ahead of time, I may not have an open mind. One of my platforms that I introduced last Saturday is to put in place a lobbyist registry. Going forward, I would like council to support this, that when a ratepayer group or anyone is to contact us on a topic, it gets recorded. So when we make decisions based on the official plan, we can tell you how many times ABC individual or group has contacted us and where that influence comes. Until you sat in our seat, and I can tell you right now, any councillor here that has not had a phone call from one of the ratepayer groups in advance of a discussion before the public gets to have it, if they say no, we're lying, because every one of us has had those phone calls.
I'm going to have to.
We're just going to let it go for now. We're going to have to move on. We have a couple more questions left. You're going to have your closing comments in less than 5 minutes. Then you can talk about whatever you like, okay? Okay, so, Phil, I'm going to hit you with another one. This is actually the last question we have down here, so then you guys will be free to do your closing remarks, whatever you'd like to address. Okay, so this is the last one for Phil, and then one for Peter. So, Phil, what are you doing to increase tourism in the shoulder and winter months in Muskoka Lakes?
Well, again, I'll talk to Muskoka 365 and wanting to keep businesses open longer. I love the fact that we have Cranberry Festival. We need something else. I can tell you personally, anybody in the audience snowmobile, worked extremely hard to keep a snowmobile trail open through Port Carling, because people would snowmobile from Bracebridge, you can't get through Port Carling. You had to turn and go the other way. They weren't coming to Bass Lake. Lobbied the district to reopen a trail that they want to close because they deemed it not safe. We found a way around that to make sure our winter season was open and welcoming of tourists to come up here for snowmobiling. So that's one example that I can give you.
Okay, Peter, final question of the night for you. Will you encourage employers to pay a living wage for Muskoka and the area?
Absolutely, I will. One of the problems here I mentioned is opportunity. I look at this quite intimately. I have a 15-year-old daughter. By the way, she works at Home Hardware. Started when she was 14, and she sort of feels quite nicely. So, so the fact of the matter is, at some point in the near future, she's going to be making decisions, life decisions, and I have a very strong suspicion that a future in Muskoka is going to rank fairly low because the opportunity, everybody seems to be fleeing. The opportunity is elsewhere. So if we can start doing the decent thing, paying decent wages, offering permanent year-round full-time employment, diversifying away from our reliance on just tourism and on development trade, which is honorable and terrific, but not for everyone. We need something for somebody else or for everybody else. I would love to see us develop a clean, green business alternative to employ a couple of dozen people, pay them a living wage, and maybe their kids will grow up in a house that dad and mom bought from money they made working in Muskoka, and maybe they will see some opportunity to go get educated, come back, and make a difference in our community as well.
Okay, well, thank you both, gentlemen. I found that incredibly informative. I'm sure everybody else did as well. We're going to move on to the closing remarks. So we're going to start with Phil, I believe. You're both going to get 2 minutes to go over your closing remarks. So take it away.
I feel like standing for this. First of all, from a living wage, I think we actually have to decrease some people's salaries right now, because what you're actually having to pay people to be up here and work is exorbitant amounts of money to get staff. So I certainly support a living wage. It's interesting, and Peter talked about a love for Muskoka. This is my heart. For those people who know me, I don't think I have too many articles of clothing that don't say Muskoka. Every license plate I have says Muskoka on it. This is my home. I grew up in Toronto, seasonal cottager up here. I lived in Markham when I was married. My son chose to move up here. I didn't have to incentivize him. He wanted to be up here. He works up here every day, helping, doing landscaping, busting his proverbial backside, because he loves being part of this Muskoka fabric. He met his wife up here. My grandson is up here. I don't do this for any other reason than I care about Muskoka. And I want this for my children and my children's children for the next 56 years or 156 years. Our council over the past 4 years, have moved mountains. We have ticked every box that was asked of us. I look forward to another 4 years of continuing to move the needle. Ask and you will receive. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Peter, the microphone is yours. 2 minutes.
Okay, go. Thank you very much. Thank you for the time. Thank you to the Chamber. Thank you, Matt, for emceeing. A few things. Clearly, we have differences of opinion on approach. I have led successfully large organizations. I feel very able to lead this one. It needs strong leadership. It needs leadership that understands that there's a difference between attracting business and creating the conditions whereby they stay open and mandating them. It means a condition where we understand that there are assaults on the things we believe in here, whether it's noises. We have a neighbor an Airbnb, and they get to decide on Friday nights when we go to bed. That's not right. We need to take that back. That needs leadership. It needs a calm, confident, experienced ability to bring to the table and infuse it throughout our entire organization, our council, our staff, and everybody who works through us. There's nothing draconian or mean-spirited about it. It's about freeing up the place so that we can enjoy everything that we already enjoy about it and minimizing the risk that it's somehow going to be damaged as it gets developed. I would like the opportunity to do just that. I have little cards back here which will describe basically the platform. I would encourage you, please take a look at the website, look at the plan, send me your comments and feedback. I'm an open book in terms of talking about it. Nobody here can claim a monopoly on wisdom. Every one of us can learn from each other, and that's the goal, and that's part of good leadership as well. Thank you for your attention.
All right. I think we should just give a round of applause to both of these gentlemen and to all the candidates who have put so much time and effort into these campaigns. It's a serious endeavor, and congratulations to all of you. And thank you so much for coming in. It's fantastic to see everyone playing their role. We have to be out of here by 9 o'clock. With that being said, we still have a few minutes, so you can chat with the candidates a little more if you're willing to stick around for a few minutes.
Thanks for coming.